Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here to do a video response to one of my YouTube friends, Robert Bellissimo, whose channel is called Robert Bellissimo at the Movies, and I'll put a link below to his channel. Somebody you should definitely check out if you don't know who Robert is. He did a video about the new, fairly recent Sight and Sound list or poll of the 100 greatest films of all time. And I guess I didn't really know much about this. I heard a little bit about it, but I wasn't aware of the details. I guess there were two lists made. One of them was made by critics, and the other was made by directors. And Robert is talking about the one that was made by the critics, and so that's the one I used as well. He talked about the list, and he came up with this idea. If you could only watch 10 films from this list for the rest of your life, which ones would you choose? I thought that was kind of a neat idea. So here's my 10 films. But before I start, let me give you a little bit of context here. Of the 100 films on this list, I've only seen, wait for it, 46. So not even half of them. And I admit that I'm seriously cinematically challenged. And I've been saying that for years. There are so many films that end up on this kind of list, classic films that everybody seems to know about except for me, that I've never gotten around to watching for various reasons. They just haven't become available. They're too expensive to buy if I'm not sure I'm going to like them, or sometimes they just don't interest me. I mean, I've made it to the age of 71 and I've not yet started to watch samurai films, right? So I really doubt if I'm going to start doing it anytime soon. So anyway, of the 46 that I've seen, I will give you my list. And there were some what I would consider to be glaring omissions. I mean, of kind of films that I think are classic. I mean, where was High School Confidential? You know, no mention whatsoever of Teenage Gang Debs. Wild Guitar, directed by Great Ennis Steckler. Are you kidding me? Why? Yeah. And where was Ride the Wild Surf? I mean, come on, folks. Okay, now that's out of the way, you can see what I talk about in the genre of classic. So that's how I spend most of my time. Not really, just kidding. So let me tell you the 10 films that I would pick, all right? 10 films, and they're not in any particular order. I'm kind of going down the list as it was from 1, 2, 3, and the ones that I had seen and that I would choose, that is my first one. So the first one on the list is Vertigo by Alfred Hitchcock, which I absolutely love. I think it's his best film that he ever made, and I don't know. I guess it just freaks me out that when it first was released in 1958, and for a few years afterward, it was considered to be a failure. And it just amazes me that people did not latch onto this. It's so wonderful. Great performances by everybody concerned. A lot of people criticize Kim Novak as not being a good actress in this film, or a good actress, period. And I totally disagree. I think she's wonderful in this film, and I couldn't imagine anybody else doing it. All right. Next up is Mulholland Drive, directed by David Lynch. A mystery within a mystery within a mystery, and it continues to unfold every time I watch it. You see something else in the background, or you catch a word or a phrase you didn't catch before. Just a brilliant movie that is, I guess, considered to be neo-noir by some people. I don't know. But however you classify it, I just think it's brilliant. All right? Next up is my number one film of all time. Every time I make a list, I put The Night of the Hunter from 1955, Charles Laughton, at the top of my list. It has been my favorite film for quite a long time now. Robert Mitchum, Shelley Winters, Lillian Gish, and a couple of amazing child actors, Billy Chapin and Sally Jane Bruce. Billy Chapin especially really is the centerpiece of this film, and he gives a brilliant performance. And just can't say enough about it. How do you classify this film? Nobody can, really. Is it a fairy tale? Is it a melodrama? Is it black comedy? Or is it noir? A lot of people think it is. Doesn't matter. It's brilliant. The only film directed by Charles Laughton. One of the best things that Robert Mitchum ever did. All right? And this Criterion has so many incredible extra features that you just have to get it. All right, next up is Fellini's 8 1/2, which is another film that continues to unfold every time that I watch it. And I think partly that's because of the language barrier, because I'm watching the subtitles instead of watching the images so much of the time. And the imagery is so attractive to the eye that I'm not necessarily paying attention to what people are saying, right? And so I'm probably missing some of the story, but it's beautiful to look at. And just the opening scene where of that crowded traffic jam and all that stuff. Just great imagery in this film. Beautiful. All right. Next up is Casablanca. Yeah, I can't imagine not living my life and never being able to see this movie again. I love it so much. Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, Claude Rains, Peter Lorre. Oh my God. Sidney Greenstreet. Just a great, great movie. Conrad Veidt. Wow. All right, Casablanca. You must remember this. Next up is the only film on the list by Michelangelo Antonioni, which was kind of a surprise and a little bit of a disappointment, but I certainly agree with having this film on the list, La Ventura from 1960, starring Monica Vitti. Another film that really can't be classified. It was also very controversial when it came out because a lot of people, when it played at the Cannes Film Festival, I guess it was booed by many people, and then the next day, a list of critics pronounced it the greatest film of all time that would change cinema forever. I don't know if that really happened, but it is a fascinating film to watch. The first of his great trilogy of films dealing with the changes in mores in Italian society during that period, and it's probably the best of the three. All right. Next up is a great American film, critique of Hollywood and the whole star system, Sunset Boulevard. Billy Wilder directed, William Holden and Gloria Swanson. All right, Gloria Swanson did not play herself, although everyone thought she did. She was so good and so convincing as the delusional, washed-up, silent screen star Norma Desmond, who was aching for a comeback. No, not a comeback, a return. And it's a critique on the Hollywood star system, and made a lot of people angry. Made a lot of people in Hollywood angry, as if you're biting the hand that's feeding you. But it's a great film, and I would say as a sort of a mirror image to this dark look at Hollywood is this classic musical 2 years later, 1952, Singing in the Rain, which also looks at the period of silent films converting over to sound films, and stars of that time having a lot of trepidation about making their debut in sound films and finding ways to make it work for them. But this is all done for great fun. It does critique Hollywood, but it does it in a lighthearted way. But there's a lot of truth there as well. Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, Donald O'Connor. The backstory about this film is almost as interesting as the film itself. How young Debbie Reynolds, who was not a dancer, somehow was chosen by Louis B. Mayer to be in this film and work in between two of the greatest dancers in Hollywood, Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor. It's absolutely amazing. And she worked her ass off to make it work. And big credit to her as her dedication. All right. Singing in the Rain. Love it. Can't imagine life without this either. Next up is my favorite Charlie Chaplin film and his very last silent film, Modern Times from 1936, co-starring Paulette Goddard, who quickly became one of the most popular actresses in Hollywood, and she was married to Charlie Chaplin at the time. And I think this has incredible imagery and just a very heartbreaking story. Charlie Chaplin at his absolute peak, I think. And of course, I also love everything else he's done that I've seen, like City Lights and The Gold Rush, and certainly The Great Dictator. But this, as being his final silent film, I think is a landmark, and it's really wonderful. All right. And finally, the one film, my number 10 on the list, is another Hitchcock film that I don't happen to own a copy of, and that is Rear Window from 1954. James Stewart, Grace Kelly, Thelma Ritter, Raymond Burr. Great film. I've only seen this movie maybe 3 times in my entire life, and it's always been on the big screen, so I've been very lucky in that respect. I should get a copy of it. I love the movie. It is so filled with building tension, and it never fails to get my adrenaline just going through the roof during that ending. Even though I know exactly what's going to happen, it always grabs me. It is absolutely astounding. And I got to give it to Raymond Burr, who before he became known as television's Perry Mason, who was a good guy, he played these complicated, monstrous film noir villains, in many, many films. And this is one of his greatest performances in Rear Window. So now Robert also mentioned a film on his list that I love very much, which I was actually surprised to see on the list. And that is Barbara Loden's Wanda from 1970. I really do love this film. But I'm not sure why it made this list. I guess it's more highly regarded than I ever believed that it was. But I'm crazy about it. So I guess this is sort of a runner-up on my list. I would also include films like Citizen Kane. Let's see, what else is on there that I thought. One omission that really did surprise me, and that was Blow Up. I really thought that Blow Up should have been on the list, but then it's one of my favorite films. The very last film on the list was Jordan Peele's Get Out. One of only, I think, 2 horror films that were on, maybe 2 or 3 horror films that were actually on the list. One was The Shining, which I can see that. But Get Out, I don't know about that. It's not a bad horror movie, but to be put on a list like this, I don't know, just, but who are these people? What do they know? Anyway, that's my list, and I will put links to everybody below. That my friend Roger Kirby also made a list in response to Robert's video, so I will put a link to his video as well. And I'm hoping some other people will join in. So let me know what you think of what I said here, and sorry for being cinematically challenged. I promise to work on it.